Age of Reason, 16. As Josh looked for his nice white dress shirt, his eye caught the brown image of himself. So, naturally, he stopped and stood in front of the mirror to inspect himself and think. I'm finally shaping up a little bit. The bodyweight routine and surfing with Rachel and the others are starting to make its impact finally. He was not very eager to go the first time, but now he was glad that Rachel had insisted he try surfing a couple of years ago. He had taken to it surprisingly quickly and now couldn't imagine a week without hitting the waves at least once. Then, upon closer criticism, Josh thought dishearteningly, I'm just not putting muscle on like other guys at the beach. He saw his white shirt hanging on the back of his door and, of course, perfectly ironed for the important day ahead. Mama was so good to him. She was always taking care of all those important little details that he would never remember to do. Josh thought of what Dad and Mom had always told him. You are more wanted and loved because we chose you as our son when we couldn't have our own. He knew that they were just trying to make him feel special and loved in the times he asked about his biological parents, but then again, it did work. He knew he was loved and he was going to make them so proud of him today. Dad always beamed and told everyone he could about how smart his boy was, and that he was graduating from his high school for the gifted 2 years early. Then Mr. M came to his mind, and Josh wished that he could be there too, sitting with the other teachers today. That summer after his death had been tough on Josh, but in these past few years he had almost blocked out the whole ordeal from his mind. He figured that, in some ways, it was just better to not think about it. Well, at least it was easier anyway. Then Rachel and Josh had become the friends that they both needed at that time. They were there for each other and could talk about anything, even the grief and confusion that came after Mr. M's passing. Josh felt the small tear that was forming in the corner of his eye, wiped it away, and composed himself while he put on his shirt. Josh finished dressing and looked into the mirror again. There, I don't look half bad, he said aloud while seeing himself approvingly. Rachel always said his dark features made a great contrast to bright colors and especially pure white. Looking in the mirror now, he supposed she was right. But she was always right about things like that. He'd probably never match if it weren't for Mama and Rachel. Suddenly another realization came to Josh. I'm going to be 16 and able to drive next week. Well, if I can ever get a car anyway. He had been so consumed with his extra college calculus course and finishing up his final high school semester to graduate early that he had almost forgotten about his impending summer of freedom. He still didn't quite get why Dad wouldn't buy him a car. Dad was able to work from home as a software engineer through the pandemic lockdown craziness years earlier and was now making some decent money. Yet Dad would always happily remind him, You'll never really appreciate what consistent hard work can do for you if everything is handed to you for free. Josh daydreamed a bit. Well, maybe a snazzy little moped would be fun to get me to the beach, at least until I can save enough for a decent car, he thought. Then I could finally ask Rachel to go on a date with me. She would say yes for sure, if I could take her somewhere really beautiful. Maybe a picnic and a walk through the Mirror Woods with those huge, amazing sequoia trees, or maybe the nearby Big Basin Redwoods Park would be just as good. This was a big day for Josh, and his thoughts and emotions continued to bounce around as he gathered his graduation robe and hat together. I still don't know what college I should go to either. He had looked at and been accepted to several high-level schools. But do I even want to go? I kind of just want to do my own thing for a while. What is my own thing? He thought. He had recently been feeling a strong emotional pull that slightly confused him. He knew he was supposed to go to college since he was so smart, but that was exactly what people expected of him. He knew his parents would always be there for him no matter his decision. He was having a different feeling, though, a feeling that bothered him and also urged him to do something, to make something. Then he had it. I have to invent something, Josh said aloud. And there it was. A creative streak began to take him over from that moment on. Creativity is in each child from the beginning, but it can either be discouraged and diminished or it can be encouraged and cultivated. Creativity is a valuable and worthy trait for a person to own. For to create is to mimic the very source that created all things. Oh, Joshy, come give me a big hug and take a picture in your cap and gown with your mama, exclaimed Josh's mom in her sweet, boisterous voice as she threw her arms around him. Josh thought it was so silly that no matter how old he was, she insisted he always call her Mama and not Mom because she said it made her feel old. But he was quite used to it now. The graduation ceremony went by without a blemish, though he was pretty embarrassed while he stood, for what seemed like an eternity, to be recognized for graduating 2 years early with a perfect grade point average. His parents, some local relatives, and Rachel were smiling big and looked so happy for him, and at that moment he felt really loved. Then, after the speeches, hugs, and all the pictures were over, they headed home to prepare for the party, where he knew there would be another round of speeches, hugs, and pictures with the friends and family that he loved. "Look at that, Joshy. You're as tall as me now," Mama proclaimed as she checked the photos on her phone while Dad drove home. "Yeah, but Mama, you're only 5'6". Most guys my age are at least 5'10" or more. I want to be tall like Dad," stated Josh with frustrated sadness. "And even though I can do push-ups all day, I just can't get any bigger." "Well," Mama interjected, "I think you were the most handsome young man on the stage today, and I'm sure you'll grow more over the next few years. There's still plenty of time to grow up, so don't rush it, sweetie." Then Dad chimed in with, "Hey, that's true, and I'll tell you something else. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses, so focus on what you've got, because I would have loved to have had your photographic brain when I was your age. So cheer up, Charlie. It's your graduation day, my man, and I'm really proud of you." It was a fresh and sunny birthday morning for Josh, and he was just finishing his favorite breakfast of pancakes, bacon, and fruit that Mama made special for him. They were talking about the day's plans when the doorbell rang unexpectedly. "I wonder who that is so early," Mama said, sounding curious. "I'll get it, Mama," Josh said with a heave as he got up from his chair, feeling sluggish from the big meal. "And thanks for the awesome breakfast," he said gratefully while he set his plate in the sink. The man at the door was tall, lean, and wore a fancy light gray suit with a black and white polka dot bow tie. Josh could see a very cool gleaming light blue Jeep over the gentleman's shoulder while he said, "Good morning, son." The tall man responded with a strong and refined southern voice while looking at Josh with an air of seniority. "I am a lawyer, and I'm hoping to speak with Mr. and Mrs. Macias, parents of Joshua Macias. Are they home, son?" "Oh, well, I'm Josh, but let me just go get my mama real fast. Please wait here, sir." Josh closed the door and ran back to the kitchen. "Mama, there's a rich-looking lawyer at the door, and he's asking for you and Dad. Did something happen? Is there a problem?" Josh questioned enthusiastically. "Quiet down. He could hear you," she scolded. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll just have to go talk with him and find out. Come with me, Joshua, and keep quiet," she said softly as she began to walk to the door. Mama opened up the door partially so that the interior of the house was blocked from the man's view. "Hi, how can I help you?" she asked with kindness and some trepidation. "Hello," he replied with a gentle smile, sensing her unease. He handed his business card over and continued with, "Ma'am, my name is Mr. Greenwich. I am a lawyer, and I have been commissioned to deliver a letter and some information regarding your son, Joshua. You are Mrs. Macias, Joshua's adopted mother, yes?" "Yes, I am." "And is Mr. Macias available as well?" "It would be best for clarity if I could speak with y'all," he stated plainly. "He's not available now, but he could be back at any time," she lied. Josh knew Dad would be gone all day, but he knew she never wanted to be too trusting of a stranger cold calling at the front door. Mom stepped out and pointed to the patio furniture. "It's such a beautiful warm day. Won't you please have a seat out here on the patio, and I will be right back with a cold glass of water for you. Then we can discuss this more comfortably," she said kindly as she closed the front door again. All three of them sat with their waters while Mr. Greenwich explained himself in more detail. "I trust that you will share all information discussed here with your husband. Though I am legally required to speak with only one parent, it is very important that you both, as well as Joshua, understand everything fully. I am too busy to come back later today, and the information is, well, time-sensitive." "Yes, of course I will," she responded matter-of-factly. "Wonderful. Then let me start with the information I have for you so that, hopefully, the letter will make more sense. You can see here the letter is unopened as required," said Mr. Greenwich seriously as he passed it over. Josh was squirming with anticipation as he waited for Mr. Greenwich to continue. "This may come as a shock to you, Joshua, but I have been in charge of the living will and other particulars of the late Dr. Selden McClure. You did know him, correct?" Josh was confused and answered with some delay. "Yes, well, he was my mathematics teacher for my first year of middle school, but it was 3 years ago that he died. Almost exactly as of last week, actually." Mr. Greenwich's face became grave and somewhat soft, even. "Yes, I know. Dr. McClure was a very good friend of mine and a long-time client as well. He was an amazing man." He stared off into the past for a moment, then brought himself back quickly and continued on. "You see, Joshua, Dr. McCurr had no children and had, from his inventions over the years, amassed a sizable amount of money and various tools, one could say. He had great hopes for your future and your mental ability. He did not want his work or money to be wasted away or seized by the government upon any unfortunate fate. Mr. Greenwich paused for a quick sip of water and continued. What I'm getting at is that Dr. McCurr chose you, Joshua, to eventually receive all of his research findings, his home in Santa Cruz, and other possessions, as well as the vast majority of his considerable wealth. Mama stood up with a start, gathering herself for a moment as she was obviously flustered. Then she indignantly spoke. Well, sir, I don't know what kind of scam this is, but you will not be getting any information from us, and you should be ashamed of using the name of a dead man to manipulate others. Ma'am, my apologies. I do understand that this is a very unusual situation, but I can assure you there is nothing I want or need from you and your family. Mr. Greenwich pulled out some documents from his briefcase and continued. Now, here is the relevant section of the will that pertains to Joshua, and you can see for yourself the reality of this good news. Mama began looking over the will, studiously reading through sections of each page. Josh quietly let Mama read while he pondered over all this for a bit. Then he spoke. I knew Mr. M was a total genius, but he never seemed rich. Now you're saying that he gave it all to me? He said with a doubtful look. Well, there are sizable investments of stock, cryptocurrency, and other accounts that total over $1 billion US, and there are still currently various large royalties from commercial patents in his name, being paid out continuously. Wow, Josh said introspectively as he stared off at nothing and thought about cool cars, new surfboards, and powerful computers. Then Mr. Greenwich added, Oh, and of course, this all will take effect upon your 18th birthday when you are a legal adult. Wait, what? Josh groaned in surprise as he was ripped back to reality. The lawyer responded matter-of-factly. Yes, well, these are all very important responsibilities, and the law requires you to reach adulthood before the transfer to you is final. But it is all yours, of course, or will be, rather. Josh gasped and complained, Oh, man, I have to wait 2 years? Then Mama interjected, So why Joshua? And Dr. McCurr has been gone for 3 years. So why now? Mr. Greenwich replied, Yes. The will specifically states that if and when the fateful event of Dr. McCurr's death arrives, then Joshua is to receive that which I have specified. And if Joshua has not yet reached the age of 18, then at the age of 16, today of course, he is to receive certain specifics as a minor under the guidance and control of you, his adoptive parents. Then, upon turning 18, Joshua will receive the rest of his inheritance. Dr. McCurr also made other arrangements in case any money was ever needed for the care and upbringing of Joshua. But that has not proven necessary. Josh looked up hopefully and said, Oh, I see. So what did he say I should be given now that I'm 16? For the first time, Mr. Greenwich let a little smile show as he began to explain. Again, mind you, only with your parents' approval and control, you are now able to receive a monthly amount up to $10,000, Dr. McCurr's Jeep Rubicon, and, very importantly, his private memoirs. Josh's mouth hung open with a faint "what" sound coming out, and he began to daydream once again. Mr. Greenwich stopped to look at his water for a moment in deep thought. Then he looked directly at Joshua and said, To address the question of why Joshua, Dr. McCurr saw great potential in you. He believed you were special and important, and well, to him you were very much so. And with that, Mr. Greenwich handed the sealed letter to Josh and a copy of the will to Mama. He then pointed to it and stated, I trust all of this is acceptable to you. If so, then both of you please sign here. As Mama continued to look over the documents, a small bald man drove up in shiny silver Jaguar, with its unmistakable cat hood ornament. The Jaguar pulled to a stop behind the blue Jeep. With a start, Mr. Greenwich arose and said, It looks as though my car's here, and that is all the time we have today. Just give me a call after you discuss this all with your husband, and then we can finalize everything through email and online. You have my card there, so contact me soon. Mama said her goodbye with restrained skepticism, but was still polite enough. With that, Mr. Greenwich shook their hands and thanked them for their time. Then he smiled and said, Oh, Joshua, I almost forgot, while he tossed some car keys that Josh, in his surprised state, barely caught. Congratulations on your early graduation and happy birthday. We'll be waiting to see your great potential realized. He then walked down to the sleek Jaguar, stepped into the driver's side, and drove off with the little bald man now in the passenger seat. Josh looked at the keys in confusion and then at the beautiful blue Jeep with a dawning of understanding. No way, he whispered in excitement as he got up, letting the letter fall without a thought, and began to run to inspect his new ticket to freedom. Then out of nowhere, the keys were snatched from his hand. Mama said with a sassy, teasing tone, "I'll take those, thank you very much," as she gave Josh a big hug while holding the keys far behind him as he half struggled to get them back.
Be sure to share the show with friends and write an Amazon review. Get the entire audiobook right now. Go to sa.vanderwerf.com to get it at an extremely discounted price. To receive the free ebook and my wallpaper book cover image, just sign up for the newsletter at sa.vanderwerf.com. Then you can be notified for the release of the anticipated sequel to The Man Who Made Himself. Thanks so much and enjoy the gifts.